Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico says he plans to return to the Senate in time to vote for President Biden's Supreme Court nominee. The Democratic senator suffered a stroke earlier this month and underwent surgery. In a tweet on Sunday, Lujan expressed his gratitude for the support he received from throughout the country.
Let me begin by expressing my thanks for the outpouring of support my family and I have received from across New Mexico and around America.
Lujan said he will be back in Washington in a few weeks to represent the voices of New Mexico and consider a Supreme Court nominee. In a recent NBC interview, President Biden said the search to replace Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer is now down to 4 candidates. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken hosted a virtual meeting to address the challenges of combating the CCP virus on a global scale.
We need to take all efforts and contributions that our countries are already making and intensify them and better coordinate them so that we can achieve our targets and end the acute phase of COVID-19 this year.
It was the first time that foreign ministers gathered for the only purpose of discussing how to end the pandemic. In his address, Blinken laid out steps to increase global cooperation, including increasing vaccinations, bolstering supply chain resilience, addressing information gaps, and strengthening the global health system. D.C. residents will no longer have to show proof of vaccination to enter most businesses. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced today that she's dropping the vaccine passport requirement.
Beginning tomorrow, February 15th, as you know, the limited public health emergency that I put in effect in December expires, as will the requirement for indoor venues to verify that patrons are vaccinated.
She also said that the mask mandate for indoor public spaces will be lifted beginning March 1st. The city introduced the restrictions as Omicron cases began surging in November and December of last year. Masks will still be required on public transit and in some communal spaces such as schools and emergency shelters. Congresswoman Lisa McClain has just recently introduced legislation specifically targeting members of the CCP. This legislation is ruffling some feathers amongst Communist Party members in mainland China. We're happy to have the Congresswoman on with us to talk about it. Congresswoman Lisa McClain, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Congresswoman, you've introduced a bill called the Stop the CCP Act. This is the first bill of its kind that is directly targeting members of the Chinese Communist Party. If you could, please tell us exactly what this legislation aims to do and why you wrote the bill.
Well, it really does two things. One, it puts financial sanctions on members of the CCP and their family, and it restricts travel with those same members and their families. So it puts travel restrictions on them and financial restrictions on them. And why I've done this is the Biden administration has not been tough on China at all. Look at what is happening, right? You have the human rights violations in Hong Kong. You have the forced labor camps with the Uyghurs. You have China stealing our intellectual property. You have China trying to take over Taiwan, just to name a few. And this administration has not been tough on China at all. So if the administration is not going to be tough on China, then Congress needs to be. And I'm happy to lead that charge, because I will share with you this. If we aren't, weakness breeds aggression. Just look around the world as of what's happening right now. We have to show our adversaries that this type of behavior, especially China, we have to show China that this behavior will not be tolerated, and we have to stop letting our adversaries push us around.
Now, Congresswoman, these direct sanctions and travel restrictions that are built into your bill will likely cause serious pain to members of the CCP. There's so much corruption in China. Many of these officials have offshored much of their money and they've embezzled into real estate in the United States. They also have their passports ready, as there's so much political infighting within the CCP. They never know when they'll actually be on the chopping block. Has this bill drawn the ire of the CCP yet?
Well, it's definitely touched a nerve. That is for sure. In fact, they came out with a statement and tweeted about it, I believe, Saturday, that they're not happy with it. And if anything, they are going to turn around and sanction us with the same sanctions, which I say, go ahead. I don't have any plans to invest in China, and I definitely don't have any plans to travel to China. So at the end of the day, yes, it's touched a nerve, which tells me we're on the right track because we have their attention and we are beginning to show some strength.
Now, Congresswoman, I want to get your thoughts on NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom, who's been very outspoken about the CCP's human rights abuses. He's just essentially been banished from the NBA in a sketchy transaction where he was traded to one team, then cut from that roster. Meanwhile, the NBA and other corporations have spent billions and billions on social justice causes. How concerned are you? And really, at what point does it become a national security threat when we see Western corporations so intertwined with the CCP?
I think it's already a national security threat. I think we need to be very concerned. And as it pertains to the NBA, shame on you. If you're going to have a standard, let's have a standard. But like I say, if it wasn't for double standards, the NBA would have no standards at all. If it doesn't fit their narrative, they abolish it. They penalize him. And you know what? I give him credit for standing up for freedom. I mean, God forbid, isn't that a horrible thing to stand up for freedom? Let's penalize him. Let's ostracize him for standing up for freedom. And I think what's happening is the American people are waking up. The American people want traditional American values. They've seen what all this progressive communist agenda is looking like, and they don't want it. So I say continue the fight. And I would say don't watch the NBA if they're going to act like this. Put your money where your mouth is. I mean, we make people folk heroes for Black Lives Matter, but when somebody actually stands up for freedom, we ostracize them. What is going on in this country?
Now, to your point, NBC, the media sponsor of the Beijing Games, is starting to acknowledge the ratings nightmare they're having. They say it's pandemic related. Do you think it's pandemic related, or has the term genocide games resonated with the public, and are we seeing a moral boycott?
It's 100% a moral boycott. What does the pandemic have to do? If it's pandemic related, then we'd all be in our house and we'd have nothing to do but watch the games. So that's a great narrative. It's just not true. And at the end of the day, like I said, the American people are waking up. They're not buying these spins. They know what's going on. They're just not listening.
Congresswoman Lisa McClain, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And special counsel John Durham's team alleged Friday that Hillary Clinton's campaign paid a tech company to spy on former President Donald Trump's residences and the White House when Trump was in office. According to the court filings by Durham, lawyers for the Clinton campaign allegedly paid a technology executive and his associates to infiltrate servers at Trump Tower and at the White House, with the goal being to establish an inference and a narrative to tie Trump to the Russian government. Republican Congressman Jim Jordan weighed in on the allegations on Fox's America's Newsroom.
They spied on a presidential campaign. That's as wrong as it gets. But then we found out from this filing that they actually spied on a sitting president, which is even worse. So we do need to investigate this stuff, get to every bit of information we can.
Durham made the claim as part of his investigation that had brought charges against Michael Sussman, who was a lawyer that had worked on behalf of the Democratic National Committee in the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016. Sussman is currently charged with making a false statement to the FBI. Durham said in his filing that Sussman gathered and conveyed the allegations of ties between Trump and the Russian government to the FBI on behalf of at least two clients, a technology executive at a U.S.-based internet company and the Clinton campaign. Billing records reflect that Sussman repeatedly billed the Clinton campaign for his work on the Russian bank allegations. Durham also said that an unnamed tech executive and his associates mined the White House domain system traffic and other data in order to gather derogatory information about Donald Trump. Trump issued a statement about Durham's filing saying, quote, This is a scandal far greater in scope and magnitude than Watergate. While interviewed by Fox and Friends co-host Steve Doocy, former Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland said that mainstream media outlets are avoiding the latest Durham allegations because, quote, they were all in on it. This year, second graders from the Ayton Elementary School in Washington, D.C. designed the White House's Valentine's Day decorations. First Lady Jill Biden had the children create what's called heartwork to hang in the East Wing. Her office asked that the design center around words like love, peace, and kindness. The children's teacher, Alejandro Diaz-Granados, is also the winner of the 2021 Teacher of the Year Award in D.C. They got a chance to tour the White House and see their work on display earlier today.